Communitas is a concept in anthropology famously described by Victor Turner, referring to an intense, unstructured bond of shared humanity, deep fellowship, and equality felt during a transformative group experience, like ritual or crisis. There's like a we feeling of togetherness.
Why do you do theater?
I do theater for the community. I grew up in a very religious household, and theater was sort of my escape in finding some calm for myself.
I found that not only did I belong there, but the people in the world that I connected to the most were also there. So community is really what made me fall in love with it permanently. Okay, cool. Are we rolling?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Matthew Teague Miller. Everybody calls me Matty. I use he, him pronouns, and I am a professor of theater here at Chico State and the coordinator of the musical theater BFA. Did I do okay?
Yes!
All right!
I'm Jamie, she, her. I teach children's literature and performance and acting and Shakespeare, voice for the actor. And I am an intimacy choreographer and a director and a legacy stage co-founder and other things that mom. What else do you want to know?
Hi, my name is Megan Glenn Zollinger. I am an associate professor of dance here at Chico State, and I'm also currently the associate chair of the Department of Music, Theater, and Dance.
My name is Elizabeth Davis. I use pronouns she, her, and I am the assistant professor of costume design here at Chico State.
Why do you do theater?
I do theater for the community. I grew up in a very religious household. Theater was sort of my escape. I realized the things that I loved about religion were the community, the outreach, the sense of belonging to something bigger than yourself. So I like to kind of say that theater is my church.
So I got into theater when I was 11 years old. The thing that made me fall in love with it at the time, first was just the creativity involved and the imaginative components of being in a world that was other than the world that we were actually in. But what made me fall in love with it and stick with it was the sense of community that I got and the interactions that I had with other people. Theater has always been like a place where everybody can belong, and I found that not only did I belong there, but the people in the world that I connected to the most were also there. So community is really what made me fall in love with it permanently and make me sort of adopt it as my livelihood.
Theater, when I started, was just another home for me, like how I felt when I found the dance studio, like what I felt when I found choir. It was just another space that I had a fun outlet, and then it became so much more of a community and family for me over time in terms of what it brings to me now with storytelling and expression, and my goal in reaching audience members on important topics and sometimes just lighthearted topics that we need sometimes to be entertaining and sometimes to deal with the hard things. And it's a great outlet that I found that I can channel through.
Oh my gosh, I love storytelling. I've always been a storyteller. I've been a reader as long as I can remember. I just love storytelling and I love people. And you get to collaborate in theater. In another life, I'm a writer or a bookstore owner or a librarian, and I came to realize like they're all stories. They're all centered around telling stories. But this is the one where you do it with a group of people, which I love. And I've always loved seeing the stories come to life on stage with a group of people, and that immediate feedback of the audience, like right there. I never knew how to describe it except that moment you could like feel an audience hold their breath, or the moment you could feel everyone release that tension at the same time. The audience, like they sync up together, and then like at intermission, if they break into groups, like it kind of shifts and then they come back and it syncs back up again. And I think that like community feeling, that communitas, it's the art form of where we can get that like immediate feedback of our neighbor, even if they're a stranger. And I just love that about theater, truly.
Do you have a favorite childhood memory in theater?
In theater, well, it would be when I was in To Kill a Mockingbird at 11 years old when Amy Wood made me go and audition. I played the role of Walter Cunningham Jr., who had about 6 lines, and he then proceeds to pour syrup all over his steak. I remember on opening night running off of the stage with such elation, and a fella in the cast who was playing one of the adult men saw me sort of running off stage, and he swooped me up in his arms and he spun me around, and it felt like it was the first time I ever flew, because it was something that just brought so much contentment and happiness to my heart.
I was young, and this is so not my style now, and even like pretty young, I was like, that's not my style. There's this book, Stinky Cheese Man and Other Fairly Stupid Tales. When I was young, I fell in love with it, and I memorized that story, the main story, the Chicken Little, your head is falling. And it was like a party trick that my parents would do, where they would be like, do the story for them. And I like did a one kid version of the show. It was story. Like, I adapted that. It was a book, and I turned it into a play because I was drawn to it before I even had ever heard of theater or done theater or seen theater. Because something about that is, it's not just the community. It was that like I had a desire to perform a story. That's kind of cool.
My elementary school, because it's in Ohio where Johnny Appleseed was, every year would go see the Johnny Appleseed play at the Cleveland Children's Theater. And my favorite memory from that is sitting in the audience every year and getting a little apple tree seedling that we could take home and plant in our yard. My mom has a collection of apple trees in her backyard that are all like the different years that I went to the show.
Who is someone in theater who made an impact on you?
Okay, big picture. I have a very dear friend who is a really well-known, incredibly talented teacher and director. His name is John Tracy. He is one of the most brilliant minds I've ever witnessed. To just sit and be inside his brain for the process of him coming up with the most insane creative approaches to sometimes even stories you've seen or heard a billion times. And when he gets his hands on it, it's like nothing you've ever seen, and it's so magical.
I think my biggest impact would be Sarah Russell, who is my mentor. She was the first person that really sat me down and said that she believed in me. And I'm gonna get emotional and cry about this. She stood by me for like the 3 years that she was my mentor in undergrad. She was the first person that really invested time into me.
I'm gonna go with somebody who made an impact on my life, who I met doing theater, was this woman by the name of Jamie Witt Miller. Well, she's Jamie Witt Miller now. She was Jamie Witt when I met her. She's the love of my life and somebody that has impacted me in all kinds of ways.
Catherine and Anthony, those were my mentors at the Shakespeare Company. And then Christine Morris, who was my teacher in grad school. Dennis Krosnick, who was my mentor at Shakespeare and Company. Those are folks who challenged me and pushed me and supported me and inspired me. And like everything I say is because of what they taught me. Theater is a cascade of influence, I think. I think we look up to people and carry on their influence in ways we don't even know, and I think that's exciting.
Is there a story you're glad is being told and is special to you or your identity in theater?
I am a queer woman. It took me so long to be able to say that out loud because I grew up really religious. I actually didn't feel comfortable talking about that until I actually moved to California. It's about 6 years ago. And one of the first shows we did here was the Laramie Project. It was the first time I was in a space where I felt like I could say those words out loud. And I am so passionate about providing a space for artists to come forward and talk about themselves. And so I'm really grateful to be in a department that supports our students, especially our queer students.
I think the story of women has been undertold, and of mothers has been undertold. A lot of stories in theater about mothers were written by sons. And I'm thankful that more and more mothers are writing plays and telling their story of motherhood. And then daughters can see that, sons can see that, and mothers can see themselves, because women create life, and so it's neat to like see the complexity of that.
Really personally, I actually wrote my undergrad dance BA thesis was on the death of Matthew Shepard. And so when the Laramie Project play was created, and it's still being told, I've been in contact with his mom. I've been in contact with multiple people. We did it here. We had representatives from the foundation speak. I mean, that whole event took place when I was in college. So I was 17 watching Ellen DeGeneres on the news talk about what had happened. And it was just such a ginormous shock. And he was only a couple years older than me. And continuing to just tell that story, I get so excited to see how many companies still produce that work, because it is hard, but they're real stories. And the more we talk about it, the less we forget. And the more preventative work hopefully we can do. So that one in particular, I have a really close connection with. I've been to the place where he was left on the hill. I've been in the restaurant where he took these guys home. I've walked nearly in his shoes. And again, years before, I did this entire piece as a dedication to him before the Laramie Project even came out. And I was received with death threats at my college, and it was a whole thing. It was a really big deal back then. So that piece will always stand out as something that I'm really excited is told and feels personal to me, because I feel like I went through it at that same age and time, and it feels like yesterday, yet, so many years have gone by and it's still being told, which makes me really proud.
If you could give one piece of advice to your past self as an artist, what would you give?
I'm exactly where I want to be, doing exactly what I want to be doing with the people that I want to be doing with. So trusting the process when things get rough, that's the piece of advice that I would give myself.
Embrace where the wind takes you.
I jump headfirst always, because I'd rather not enjoy it or fail big than ever live with regret.
It's not that important, and it's so much more important than you realize.